This is Mr. JT Taylor here with episode 1 of Remote Learning Photography Survival. In this video, I want to keep it short and sweet because that's how videos work best. This is take 17 of my first Chromebook screencast. So let's see how it goes. But we are going to get some photos off our really nice DSLR cameras that photography students have home with you all. We're going to get them off these and onto Chromebook and go through some basic editing on Chromebook, because although we don't have our super nice MacBook Pros, don't have those home with us, Chromebooks are pretty decent tools, like all of Google Classroom and Google Docs and all that. You know, it's not everything. It's not all the bells and whistles, but a lot's there, and we can do a lot with it, and we need to, because we'll be back in school using our great MacBook Pros and Adobe Lightroom eventually. But right now, this is what we have, and we have a lot of work to get done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start out opening up your camera. So the card compartment here is right here, and you're going to flip it down, and then you're going to push the card in, just going to make it pop out. Okay, so then here's our happy SD cards. Of course, label is the top side, and the front corner, this cut corner, that's what always goes in first. So label up, cut corner, and here, if you listen carefully, you have a nice card reader slot on the side of your Chromebook, and you're going to push it in till it clicks like that. You might have heard that, I'm not sure. But anyway, as soon as you do that, the Files app is going to pop up here, and it's going to momentarily come up with a little message that says blank number of new photos found, backup. Hey, look, there it is. 44 new photos found. Okay, I've been slightly busy, not really, but I mean, I've been really busy with teaching stuff, photography. I'm just taking for this video. In fact, it's really hard to keep up with everything. But anyway, so I'm going to hit that backup button, and presto, again, Google's going to do a pretty decent job of uploading new photos and putting them in a good place. We don't have to worry about it. I had earlier versions of this video where I'm having you make folders and put things in places you don't have to, because Google's doing it for us. Gotta love those Google robots. They make our life easier. So it's going to chug along for a while, and you know, here's where you may switch another tab, go back to Chrome, go back to Classroom and for another class, go walk your dog, something like that, because if you have a good bit of photos, if you haven't uploaded on your Chromebook, it may take a while, but it'll do it. I've been doing this for several days now, trying to work out the particulars and have a good video, and it uploaded all my photos, JPEGs and the RAW files, that we're going to keep both of those because we're going to use the JPEGs here with remote learning on Chromebooks, but we're going to keep the RAW files for making really nice prints on our museum quality Epson printer back at school. Okay, so we have them uploading, and we can just let it do its thing. Then we're actually going to get into, surprise, surprise, Google Photos. And again, Google Photos is pretty decent. So back to Chrome, make yourself a new tab. Control T, of course, is a good way to do that. That's CTRL, bottom left of your keyboard, T. Photos. And oh, look, it comes right up with the default thing. In Google we trust. There it is. Photos.google.com. Now, an important thing to understand, you know, I think many of us are very used to all the Google stuff just being all integrated together. You know, Google Docs, Google Classroom, Google Forms, Google everything. Google Nose, Google Ears, Google's flower, Google salami. It all works together magically. And, Google Photos is part of that, and Google Photos is darn good, but it's not as seamless as integration. It's not as smooth an integration between Google Photos and Google Drive and Google Classroom and so on. So we're going to load photos on to Google Photos, and we're going to have to share them back because, like I said, it's not totally seamless. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to hit this upload button here, and we're going to upload from computer. And then, now the trick is, we put the card in and it asked whether we wanted to back up the photos. But an important question is, where the heck do those photos go? Well, in the short answer, they go my drive, as you'd expect. But then it made this folder for us called Chrome OS Cloud Backup. Okay. It's an okay name, I guess. I would have named it something else, but it has other purposes. But then what's nice is it's actually putting your photos in by date. So here you can see May 8th, the first day I thought I might be able to get this video done. May 10th, another day I thought I might be able to get this video done. May 11th, okay, today we're going to get this video totally done today. Now, and then you see all your little photos here. And now I'm going to look at May 11th. I took some more photos for this demo. And here we go. I don't know what the good ones are yet. Now, if you've seen my previous little tech lessons with photography remote learning, you've set your camera so that it's going to capture an amazing full quality resolution RAW file, an NEF file, if you have one of the class Nikons, or it's a CR2 if you have your own Canon. But we're not going to use those, because one of the things I found, and one of the things that sucked so much time in this process of figuring out a good way to do this, is that the RAW files will tend to crash our school Chromebooks. Our Chromebooks are awesome and wonderful, but they can't always. Sometimes they can handle the RAW file, but not always. A lot of times they'll crash. I have become a ninja of Chromebook crashing. I have at least 5 ways I can crash a Chromebook at any given time. But we're not going to do that today, not in this video, no. So I'm going to choose the JPEG file over here, and I'm going to hit open. And it's going to take a little bit of time because, it's all on the network, depends on your internet speed. And like I said, I don't know whether this one's like perfectly in focus and amazing or slightly blurry, but it'll do. Okay, that's one I've worked on before. Maybe, yeah, we'll do that one, actually. So anyway, it loaded in this other one, but I'm going to use this one from an earlier day. Hey, no. Well, okay, right, yeah. So you could go back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, that is kind of a good one. Maybe I'll do this new one. Okay. So here we are in Google Photos, and we're editing away. I'm doing portraits of my family's eyes, super close up. I think the other one was actually better. Here, let's go back. Yeah, and we'll do this one. This is what I plan to do anyway. All right. So, editing photos. And what Google does so well is they take like the 80% of any app, anything you need to do. They take 80% of the most important stuff, and they do it, and they get it right. And that's what they've done here in Google Photos. And actually, it's a lot like Lightroom. And that's one of the reasons why, I want you to edit your photos so you have the best photos for your final project so I can give you a good grade. But you also, in editing your photos on Google Photos, you're learning the basics of Adobe Lightroom, because Google's done what it's done so well. It's taken 80% of somebody else's lunch, in this case, Adobe Lightroom. It's taken 80% of that program and put it on here and made it free, which is great for Google and not so great for Adobe, but that's a whole nother thing. Now, this is a great example of why you want to edit. Do you notice it's kind of dark? It's not at all optimized. Now, we do have an auto button, and that's the robots. And hey, that's, the skin's a little brighter, but actually, I know that this photo still could be way better than that. There's a whole lot of detail here, beautiful detail here. This is why we love the human eye. It's such a great subject because they're so beautiful and fascinating. And I do auto, and it lightens up the skin tones. It's okay, but there's so much more we could do. So we're going to flip over here to these controls, and now you might be like, "Ooh, light, color, pop, what?" That's not a lot. But then you hit this little, what I like to call the dummy triangle. They want to hide things from you because sometimes they think we're dummies, but we're not dummies. We're not at all. So we're going to hit this triangle because we're smarties. And then here are your basic tonal editing controls. And again, this is like 80% of Lightroom. So I can play with exposure here a lot, a little, dark, light, and yeah, this is a good moment to talk about, though, even though Google Photos has 80% of our professional Lightroom MacBook Pro setup from school, let me talk about the 20% that's missing here. So now this is a graph of color spaces. And you see this sort of faded thumbnail shape behind it? That is all the colors out in nature the human eye can perceive, right? Okay, so this shape. Now, a Nikon, Canon, whatever DSLR camera, digital camera, a good one, can capture this big triangle here. So it can actually capture colors that we can't see. But it's this really nice range of colors, right? Then a good monitor, where it says Adobe RGB here, this one, a good monitor can't do all that, but actually a good monitor is going to cover quite a lot of the visible colors. And so this is like a MacBook Pro monitor, a good photo editing monitor, is about Adobe RGB in terms of its color coverage. Now, and then a good print, and here, let me use the drawing tools. So a good museum quality print is about this blob here. This graphic's sort of on the old side. And so this blob shape is about the color reproduction range of a good museum quality print. And in fact, since this graphic was made, this blob has expanded, particularly in the purple and orange and green. Wow, my rehearsals paid off. That's a pretty decent drawing, all things considered. So that orange is a museum quality print, a really nice range of colors. Now, here's the problem. Chromebooks are awesome, but a $150 Chromebook is not the same as a $1,500, $2,000 MacBook. And one of the things Apple always gets right, and this is also true actually, iPhones have really nice screens. So an iPhone and MacBook is this big, right, that I already did, the Adobe RGB. But here's the Chromebook screen. Okay, you ready? Let's see how I do here. Chromebook colors is just this little triangle. So we can edit in Chromebook. We can learn editing. We have some good basic tools in Google Photos, but there's a whole range of colors and a whole set of colors that can be captured on a print that we can't see on the Chromebook screen. Plus, it's not calibrated, so it's not accurate. Our MacBook screens are actually calibrated so that the editing you do on our MacBook screen is going to show up and be pretty much the same in your final print. It's amazing. So we have good controls here. We have good possibilities, and you're learning Lightroom actually as you're doing these Google Photo edits. But real limitations, which one of the things I want you to do then is to don't do extreme edits. Don't push it to kind of the maximum, but just kind of lightly edit things, make them a bit better. And one basic thing you always want to do, let's get out of this tool. Okay. Thank you. We don't need those drawing tools anymore. Okay, so one important thing to do is, besides kind of setting your exposure, now on our MacBooks, they're calibrated, so this is really going to match the print. On a Chromebook with this limited screen, uncalibrated, it's shot in the dark. But nonetheless, kind of set the exposure to something that makes sense. Then one of the great ways to optimize an image is by setting the black point and the white point. Now here I went way too far, and I took all that shadow detail and I just blacked it out. That is not what I want to do. I do want to make sure that I have some good blacks, and Lightroom has all these special things that help us really nail the blacks. But we don't have that. So, but here's what I really want to do with this photo that I think makes an argument for why, even with the limitations of a Chromebook, why you still really want to edit that. So in this case, bring up the shadow detail. Let me do that again. Bringing up the shadow detail here really brings out what I want. Then I can bring the exposure down so the skin's not so bright. I could also pull this highlight slider down, which is really very useful. And so on. And, I think that's a pretty decent, quick first edit. Now, another thing that, again, Google Photos is taking 80% of the best Lightroom tools and giving them to us for free. Vignetting is one of my favorite little cheats. It's a great handicap. You always want to keep your viewer's eye in the photograph, and one of the ways that viewer's eye can leave the photograph is if you bright corners. So one of the opposite things is dark corner vignetting. That will just kind of keep the focus, keep attention in the main part of your subject. Now, you don't want to do this because that's really obvious. Again, especially here on Chromebook, just keep your edits really light. And so what I do is I do it so I can see it, and then I back off and I back off until most people probably wouldn't notice that I did it. But it's still, so it doesn't hit you over the head. But it's still there and it's still helping. So watch. Okay, so this is a good subtle vignette that is darkened corners. And here it is without. So do you see how that little bit of vignette, I think, is a nice little edit, nice little addition, strengthening the photo. Then finally, you have some color controls. And to be super light with these, my son's skin is not orange. You can go black and white. This is a really primitive way to go black and white. Lightroom is way better. Black and white is actually a really creative interpretation process. But anyway, you can play with the amount of color, which is saturation. You can also play a little bit with warmth, which is sometimes a really nice thing to have. But of course, you can overdo it again. So have a light touch with these tools. The skin tone slider is different. Yes, more primitive than Adobe Lightroom, but it does have its uses. Getting our facial features, whether it's skin tone, eye color, getting those right is important. I wouldn't mess with deep blue. Tint can be useful. Okay, and then finally we have this pop one. I'm pretty sure I hate this idea of pop. I haven't played with it yet. I hate it. I mean, okay, I know. It's like, whoa, oh, that's gray and dead. And then you pop it up. Whoa, that's awesome. Well, again, have a light touch. Okay, so use some pop. There are some things, so this is a kind of sharpening, which is really useful and important. But there are some things that shouldn't be sharp. Should you be able to cut your finger on somebody's, ow, I just touched that eyelash. Ow. You can go too far, is my point. So don't pop it out, but you can use a little bit of pop, even though you should know that I secretly hate it. Okay, so we'll pretend I'm done with editing. I'm like, whoa, I'm ready to turn this photo in. Now, of course, you're going to do a photo project where the photos are all nicely connected together. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Maybe there'll be some other later videos or something like that. So we can say done.